Okay, let me set the picture for you guys here. It's 2011 and you're watching some random Smosh video and your dad calls you downstairs. What is he holding apart from the best console ever made? And if anyone dare tries to argue with me, I do not remember Halo Reach coming out on the PS3. And what games did I get, you ask? Well, I got the most dad combination of games you can get. He bought me FIFA 11 and Formula 1 2011. It's like he got me video game about football, video game about car. And yeah man, I love those games to bits. Even though I couldn't string together 4 corners of any racetrack, it introduced me to the amazing world of Formula 1.
Suck my balls, mate.
Quick intro aside, it's 13 years later, and out of all the F1 seasons I've ever watched, this second half of the 2024 season has to be some of the most fun I've ever had watching the sport. Like, please tell me why I'm sitting here watching the F1 weekend warm-up, practice, quali, the race, and of course the TED notebook. Especially after that weird summer break thing that we had that had me literally feeling like a crack fiend going through withdrawals. From McLaren doing a Hamilton 2007 but for the entirety of the second half of the season, to Aston Martin literally falling off a cliff. It's like they signed Adrian Newey and decided to sack off this and next year knowing they're about to win the next 12 consecutive world championships, with Stroll still winning literally none of them. I swear Lawrence could dig up a 113-year-old Fangio to take a Stroll and he'd still lose, or at least find himself in some gravel trap in Brazil or something. It's so easy to forget that literally a year ago, F1 was like the Bundesliga pre-Kane but worse. Every race was just another Max dominance show. It was like watching Max take out his weekend car for a nice Sunday drive. He just happens to have 19 other drivers behind him. But now, we could have any of the top 4 teams win purely on pace, and I feel like something like that hasn't happened in forever. From Mercedes, if they finally decide to stop sandbagging since 2022 testing, or one of the Ferrari boys after they finally decided to actually hire legit strategists, or even one of the McLarens if they stop this 2 number 1 driver bullshit they keep pushing, or even Red Bull with Max. Definitely not Perez. Very sorry, Perez. But regardless, this year is what we call peak Formula 1, with just a little bit of sprinkled in FIA bullshit to ruin things. As a Hamilton fan, I thought 2021 Abu Dhabi was the height of FIA madness, but it seems like every new race director goes into the job thinking, what is the best way I could f*** up my chances at this job? And football fans think that VAR decisions are tough. Imagine you're Sainz or Hamilton rewatching the Albon wing mirror incident. Someone has to die. Imagine you're going for a championship and you lose a race for driving over some debris that so could have easily been removed. I love how you can watch the camera operator follow Bottas's car, almost like he knew debris on the road equals puncher equals more debris equals more puncher. If anyone at the FIA is watching this, yeah, please know that I'm coming for you. I am coming for you. I will say though, this season has made me respect Max so much more. Like Drive to Survive loves to push this narrative of good guys and bad guys, but when it gets down to it, these guys are cutthroat winners. Not to ride or anything, but it seems like the only important thing to Max is winning, and he's amazing at it. Regardless of what you think of him or how he put his car there, getting in P1 is like do or die for him. My personal theory, daddy issues. This guy has a built-in programmed need to please Mr. Verstappen Sr. over here. I don't blame him honestly. If you see the this guy used to put him through as a kid, it is mental. But to some degree, it's worked, you know, and for better and for worse, we now have an unapologetic 4 times consecutive champion of the world. Not every driver is like a Lewis Hamilton in terms of love, peace and rainbows. I think people forget Max isn't the first driver to bend a couple rules. Schumacher, Lauda, Senna, Prost, these guys are all known for knowing exactly what to do to win, and they don't give a about what that does to other drivers' races. They just care about winning. Like, look at this season with Max and Lando. It seems like even in faster machinery in Imola, Austria, Cota, Mexico, there's nothing Lando can do, and that's just a killer instinct he needs to learn, or else he just can't compete with Max. Going into the final race of the season, my money was on Ferrari, to be honest. Like typical F1 fashion, I thought something interesting was bound to happen. And it delivered. With the majority of the second half of the race, Ferrari could have won the championship with just 1 position change. However, you have got to give it to Lando, man. What an untouchable drive. You know when you don't see a driver on the broadcast at all, that's how you know they're doing well. Regardless of how good the Ferraris were, I think for once he had it completely covered from start to finish. You know what I call it? The mullet upgrade package. I'm 100% 100% well played Leclerc for a crazy drive, and also Lewis for storming through the field as well. I think it just confirms that they're the strongest pairing in 2025, and on Sunday they just showed the rest of the grid how to drive, man. Leclerc overtaking 8 cars on lap 1 could have been straight out of a last to first Jarno video. And Lewis overtaking George on the final lap, that right there is some history book. You know, that goes down with some legendary overtakes like PK on Senna, Hungary 1986, Alonso on Schumacher, Japan 2005, Verstappen on Rosberg 2016, Brazil, Schumacher on Montoya, Australia. Anyways, it's also good to see action further down the grid, with Aston Martin not giving a while ruining Oscar's race even more. Gasly getting some points, securing Alpine's 6th place in the Constructors. You know, for a track that should never be the final race of the season, the Yas Marina circuit at least delivered a race worth watching for the first time. And I feel like we have to say congratulations to McLaren and, you know, those random Bahrain dudes that apparently had something to do with it. You know, this year's Constructors Championship has got to be an interesting one. On one hand, it's the historic battle between McLaren and Ferrari. However, this year it's more like the battle of who on average had the best car, but either team's drivers couldn't convert it into the Drivers' Championship. For a team whose last Drivers' Championship was one whole Antonelli ago, and their last Constructors was 25 years ago, they've done exceptionally well, going from a couple years ago when Ron Dennis said McLaren couldn't win with a customer engine, to now with them having a car capable of not only winning races, but championships. You have to give it to Andrea Stella, Lando and Oscar and the rest of the new crew for coming in and really changing what it means to be part of McLaren. I'm not gonna lie, the result of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix doesn't really mean that much to me. I've never really liked the place. The whole place just gives me a weird vibe. It's just kind of off. I wonder why, you know. But what I'm most looking forward to is F1 2025. I know Ross Brawn is sitting somewhere with the smuggest look on his face when it comes to these regulations. And let's hope next year is more of the same. Hopefully with Max with a new teammate, sorry Checo, but maybe Lawson can actually bring more of a fight to the front. Lewis actually competing with Leclerc, yes, that also includes qualifying and the race, by the way. The McLaren's beefing for who gets priority when it comes to team orders. And Russell can continue to prove himself, now being a #1 compared to Antonelli. Who I feel most for in this situation has got to be Sainz, man. This guy who's kept up with Leclerc pretty much the majority of the season is now getting slapped to the back of the grid just because Lewis Hamilton came calling. And I get it, when a 7-time world champion knocks on your door, you better go answer it. It's like him in LA, he's racing just to race, regardless of Leclerc crying like a baby for the position. It's like he's getting black-billed from fighting for podiums to fighting the Alpines and trying not to DNF every race. Top 4 aside, the midfield is looking stacked as always for 2025, with driver changes like Lewis to Ferrari, like Sainz to Williams and Esteban to Haas, and new faces to shake up the order of things like Jack Doohan and Gabriel Bortoleto. With cars on a much more even playing field, drivers have to perform week in, week out, or the gaps start to show, and when they show, they really show. And it's interesting to see no teams have decided to go with a double rookie lineup for 2025, even Haas having PTSD flashbacks about 2021. Which does mean we get to see familiar faces stack up against the new boys. Personally, I feel Behrman will be on Ocon's level pretty quickly. He's one of those drivers you expect to see move up the grid pretty quickly as well. It's like Hamilton is just keeping his seat warm for when he's ready. While I think, or should I say I hope, Hulkenberg can keep Bortoleto at bay, or else I can see the memes happening already. Hulkenberg no podium. Hulkenberg beaten by rookie teammate. Hulkenberg blonde as a fully grown adult. Then again, it's better than getting beat by Sainz every week. It's also sad to see Colapinto hasn't secured a drive for next year, but with his recent performances in that Facebook Marketplace special of a car, it doesn't seem surprising no team wants to take a risk on him. This must be him under his helmet going out for Q1, because his recent run of form has just been on a downward spiral. It's like Messi saw another Argentinian start to gain media attention and thought he had to do something about it. As for who I want to win next year, I will say seeing Lewis win his 9th World Championship next year with a record-breaking 3rd Constructors would be amazing and would end the discussion for who's the greatest on paper. But realistically, please, anyone but Max, Lando, Leclerc, just get your act together. He's getting uncomfortably close to Lewis in terms of the argument. Or maybe, you know, this is my personal theory, Red Bull decide to sign Guan Yu Zhou back after getting back-to-back points at the end of 2024 and wins at every single race next year and then becomes the undisputed greatest F1 driver in history. But you know, at the end of the day, what do I know?